Good evening and welcome to the Select Board meeting. Today is August 10th. Everybody's here. And can I have a motion to approve the meeting minutes of July 20th, please?
Motion.
Second.
Are those the ones that has Joe's name in it, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
No.
But those were corrected.
Those
Yeah,
were
it was
correct.
corrected and you
It was-
sent a
it's-
memo
it's-
out on that. Yeah.
It's been
So-
corrected, so what I wrote the motion as is motion to approve as corrected.
Yeah.
Okay. Because we had Marshall in there instead of Joe. All right. All in favor of July 20th? Okay. Motion to approve the July 30th meeting, please.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
But didn't you need to correct the June meeting also?
Yes, the June 15th meeting
Yeah.
also needs to be
So
corrected.
you need a motion,
Yes, yes,
make
please.
a motion to correct the minutes from the June meeting.
And in case anybody's asking, Marshall's name was in instead of
Right.
Joe's. That's all it needed to be changed.
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Thank you, and sorry.
Nope.
Copy paste.
All right. So they've been approved. Okay. Alice, I don't see Alice. She's not here yet.
No.
I don't know her, so I'm not.
Oh, okay. All right. So we'll come back.
Okay.
She's probably caught.
That's what I'm thinking too. She's probably stressing out. All right, let's go to the new business, consideration of Cafe Sebago liquor license and special amusement license renewals. Kyle?
Yep.
You want to go back up to the podium? Thanks. Didn't we just see you last month?
We sure did.
All right.
So we saw an inspection report today, and
Yep.
there were some deficiencies.
Yep.
Were those all corrected?
Yep, so the two things that Wayne needed to see was from the alarm company, that the inspection was done, which was done on 5/24 of this year. They're just sending the paperwork over for that. And then Wayne, when he inspected our hood, said there was some buildup with some grease in there. We had just hired hoods out of Wyndham to come in last week. They had stamped and gave us all our paperwork, but when Wayne took a look and actually got in there, he said it was a little bit more dirty than he'd like to see. What I did was get on the phone and try to get them back as soon as possible. This was probably about 4 or 5 hours ago. I have not heard from them yet, but I will be diligent on getting them back there to get the job done right.
You also had some extension cord problems around your heater.
There was some extension cords that weren't plugged in, that were just with some DJ equipment sitting in the corner. I explained that to Wayne, and Wayne didn't seem to,
Well, no, there were some across the heater.
no, there's no,
Problem. And then
Yeah.
the other thing is you needed a state fire marshal inspection.
yeah, for the dance license and the special amusement, correct, yeah. So right now, I mean, I put that in 25 days ago, still waiting on that to come back. I've done everything I can in order to expedite that, kind of just at the mercy of the fire marshal at this time.
Good luck getting them there.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, there actually was. There was a couple things on your thing. And I think to me, so I'm reading this as that he was in there 8:10.
Today.
Which is today, yes.
Yep.
Okay, so,
The only two issues that he made me aware of that we need to address that he, really put, he said, one was the hood and then just the inspection report. Other than that, there wasn't anything in my report that I got or anything verbal to me that there was any issues beyond those two things. That was the major concern.
I'm seeing like
Yeah.
4 or 5.
I hope he gave you the same report
It
he
did.
gave
It
us.
actually, am I allowed to read your email on public?
Well,
My email?
No, not yours.
Kyle,
Yeah.
Sorry, Kyle's.
Sure.
Oh,
I mean, did you get a copy of his actual report today?
We had briefly just talked about it, and then he was going to send it. Again, it just went down probably 3-4 hours ago, so I don't know
So-
if he sent that via email.
Because I don't know the time of this. It's 19:02.
7 o'clock.
7
Oh, two.
this morning?
7:02.
It couldn't have been this morning.
No. Sorry.
Right.
Night. Well, he has August 10th.
It was this afternoon that I got it and
Okay.
forwarded it out to Select Board.
All right. Yeah, because I'm looking, the electrical panel was cleared.
I'll bring it up so you can see it.
Excellent, thank
The grease hood, but he's saying that there's quite a few other different components that you have the grease running down, and business owners aware and attempting to get this corrected.
Yeah, that should have all been done with the cleaning, and that's one of the issues I'm taking up with the vendor. I mean, I paid these guys, I had them come in on schedule, and Wayne's just not happy with the product, and now that I see it, I'm not either. But there's really, nothing that I could do about it until I get them back there to remedy that. Like I said, I mean, I did everything that I could in my power, made sure they got paid, told them what they needed to do, and obviously there's some issues that need to be mitigated.
Right, but in the meanwhile, too, though, it still has to be done, whether you did everything in your power or whatever. It's
I mean,
like me with my
technically-
license, the same
Technically,
thing.
there is a stamp on there. It has been cleaned. It's just to, whether, I don't know what, technically, I've done what I've needed to do. I have a stamp that says it's been cleaned. It's functioning as it should.
Your rear exit door is a problem.
In what regards?
Needs adjustment and replacement of the closer. And your outdoor patio exit door needs to be repaired and replaced.
Now, are these under the repair list, or these are just notes that he's taking
These
inspection?
are notes.
This
Right,
is under
so
his
the-
inspection report
Right,
today.
so when we talked about these aren't issues that said that he was gonna, these were just, if you know Wayne is very particular in how he goes through, so he documents whatever he sees. And when I talked to him about it, the door, I said, is this gonna be an issue for the, passing inspection? He said, no, it's not gonna be an issue. Same thing with the extension cord wasn't even plugged in. There's a extension cord bunched up in the corner. There's no extension cord plugged in across, or anything that's live right there. So again, he told me before he left that the two issues that I had to worry about was getting him the inspection paperwork from the fire company, and then dealing with hoods and make sure that they reschedule to come back.
You have
Okay.
a violation with your fire alarm?
Nope.
That's what it says in the report.
Again, the paperwork needs to be pushed through for the inspection. The inspection was done on 5/24, so it's just a matter of Wayne getting the paperwork from the fire alarm company.
I know, the ceiling tiles, there's some ceiling tiles that were not in place, and here's my issue that I have is, with my daycare, I may not like what the fire marshal says, I may not like what my licensor says, but in order to get my license and pass it, I've got to do everything that they're demanding. Whether if I think it matters, whether I think I did whatever, it has to be correct, is what it is. And on here, unless Wayne's here, I'm not seeing,
Yeah.
there's quite a few things on here, is what it is.
Can you scroll back? Is it okay if I just take a look at this real quick?
Yeah.
Let me go back to the top. So, pass.
Things sitting on top of the heater.
Yeah.
Here's the hood.
There's quite a few.
Grease hood.
Right.
So that's what you-
But also, Kyle, in that aspect, if you hire a business to clean it for you,
Right.
and they don't do it good enough,
Right.
that's still your problem. You still need to make sure that that hood is cleaned.
Sure, so what I can.
It's them that didn't do it, that did an inferior job. It isn't, we're not gonna reduce our standards because hoods
Well,
isn't up to par.
I understand
You know what
that
I mean?
completely, but unlike the fire inspector, I'm not gonna open this thing up and look up, because where the problem is it's actually in the stack.
Can you go to the mic, please?
Thank you.
The problem that we're having is actually in the stack, so everything that you see there from, eyesight looks clean, it's functioning properly. It's when he took the panels down and stuck a flashlight way up in there, and again, it's not that it's not operational, and I think that he says it's unsafe, but it is operational, it is functioning properly. It's just a little dirtier than he'd like to see for being cleaned a week ago. And I agree with him on that. But again, until he come in today to look at that and tell me, I'm under the impression that I've paid my money, I have everything's right there, my paperwork's in line, so I didn't know what these issues were. And as soon as he alerted me of that, before he even left, I called and left multiple messages. It's not neglect on my behalf, is what I'm saying. I've done what I could do to
I
get.
haven't had a chance to look at that email. Is there anything on there that can't be fixed within 30 days or something, or?
He's got 10 days according to our ordinance.
Well, and here's what I'm thinking too, is Wayne's name's on this. Wayne's name's on the report, so if something happens down there, it comes back on Wayne. So with how many there are and it just being done today, I'm not comfortable approving it.
No guard on the heater.
If you read his notes, okay, it
On
says
top of here.
he was found to be in compliance with the exception of noted items in the report. They require correction by the owner or occupant to comply with the Raymond Fire Protection Ordinance
That's what Joe's.
and/or State Life Safety and Fire Code. A plan of correction to the Raymond Fire Inspector within 10 days, 10 business days, from date of the report is required. So, you could do a temporary extension for 10 days.
Sure.
Is-
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I'm doing everything. I'm kind of up against it with this outside, so if I can get a couple days, I've tried to fix it today, but nobody works as fast as I do.
So, I mean, I think Wayne is even recommending, okay, you got 10 days to fix this, let us know.
Right.
He'll go back
Right, and he feels they can be fixed within the 10
within
days.
10
so-
days.
Yeah.
So do we authorize it to happen, and then if it doesn't, then it gets pulled in 10 days, or do we put a 10-day extension and he's got
I would just say you
put
do
a
a
30-day
10-day
extension,
extension.
or 30
That's what I
day
would
till
do.
next meeting, or,
Well, I mean, he's
How do
got to
you go about
report
that?
back to the fire inspector
so it's
within
all
10
under,
days.
up to the fire inspector from
Right.
here on out.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's
I'm
what
good
we
with that.
ought to do.
So I'm gonna make a unless.
Well, let me ask a question on this one too, is the one that I'm reading as far as the state fire marshal regarding your dance,
That's tied to the special amusement.
Right.
okay. All right, go ahead, Joe.
So I'm gonna make unless Ralph, you have anything?
No.
I'll make a motion to extend the license for 10 days to allow for the correction of the deficiencies in the report. And then, we somehow need to come back probably within 10 days or have an emergency meeting. to
Second
grant the
motion.
full license.
Yeah, I think I can get this taken care of in a matter of days, just a couple
You
days.
need to read all these.
Sure.
Take care of all of them.
Yep.
Motion seconded.
And then we will touch base with Wade
Sure.
and find out what's going on. He would be here tonight, but he's at a big fire right
Yep.
now.
Yeah, no,
You
I
need
just
to-
left it myself.
You need to
Yeah.
notify Wayne when it's all done so he can come back
Yep.
and look,
Yeah, it's not a problem.
okay?
Any other discussion? All right, all in favor? All right,
May I ask a question, Madam Chair?
yes,
Does that mean you need to have an emergency meeting in 10 days? I would assume.
yes.
Possibly.
Yeah, because there is no extension for the liquor license. That would be put forth by the State of Maine Liquor Department. So Mr. Bancroft can contact them and let them know it will be a further 10 days, but.
Yeah.
When does your liquor license expire?
At the end of August, so I need to get past this and then get them down to do their annual inspection, and then we'll be good for the year.
So in your eyes, what we're asking, is that an issue?
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I just have to get a hold of hoods. I've already spoke with the Cunningham, so it's really that wild card is just hoods and how quickly I can get them back in there to mitigate what they should have done right the first.
Well,
But if they don't
read
do
all
it,
the
then
other
you
There's,
stuff.
there's,
Yeah, well, I'm gonna have to
Or-
hire another company. Yeah, I'll see if I can get one in quicker
Great.
and then deal with that later on.
Right.
Read all the other stuff and get
there's
that
the
done.
door, there's the wires on top of the heater, there's quite a few things in there.
Yep, you got it.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Kyle.
Wayne
Good luck, buddy.
emailed you, but would you check your email, make sure that's correct? I know we had some trouble before. Okay, that is right? Okay, so you should have it in your email, or in your spam, one or the other.
Okay. One, clarification, Sue, how long is Bob sticking around till?
Until, he said till about 7.
And then is he coming in or is he leaving?
He just wanted to know when it was gonna be, he didn't wanna just hang in here.
Oh, okay, all right. All right, we're gonna jump back then. Alice is here. Alice Brady.
Oh, perfect.
So Alice, you can come over here? I think
Or,
this microphone.
actually, your presentation is right here.
Yeah, I brought this just in case.
Okay. So,
Is that still?
this is cool.
Oh, good.
Yeah,
Should be all
this
set
is a
to go.
happy, feel good, one of those things is what it is. You always hear like the bad. Alice is on Facebook, and what she did is she started History of Raymond and Casco on Facebook. And she has been coming up with all these old pictures of when Main Street was like maybe an alleyway. And it's really cool. It really is. So if you're on Facebook, join into the History of Raymond and Casco. So I was talking to her the other night. She started this. Her house caught on fire last year.
4 years ago, actually.
Four
It feels
years
like
ago.
only a year ago.
She lost a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
So she started posting on Facebook for her son, for memories and stuff like that, all these pictures. So I asked her to come tonight because I think it's cool to see way back when and what it was and stuff like that. So it's one of those definitely feel good things.
Yeah, and you have to really digitize everything to make sure it gets saved at this point in time. Most of the pictures I put on here tonight, because I'm trying to not take forever, because I know you guys have actual important things to do as well. But Teresa invited me to share it for something kind of fun. But Raymond and Casco used to be the same town, for anyone who didn't know that, up until 1841 when they separated. And it has a really interesting history.
What year? 1841?
That's when Casco became a separate town, yeah. And I put notes on this first slide because the first deeds were recorded for Raymond in 1794, and then the town was incorporated in 1803. But these lots that I've highlighted, the one on the bottom was Dominicus Jordan, who became the default founder of Raymond when Casco separated, because then Joseph Dingley was no longer a resident of Raymond. And his is where the outlet of Thomas Pond is, the Joseph Dingley at the top. So those are there, and I forget, you can't see what I'm seeing. So yeah, Joseph Dingley was technically the first, and this is in Raymond now. It's on Canal Street. I don't know if everybody knows where that is. It's out behind where Raymond Ready Care is on 302. And where the L is, where it says hotel, it's believed to be the house that Dominicus Jordan built initially, and then it became Sawyer's Tavern, and there was a hotel because it was on the way up 302. I'd love to create a map of the old 302 and have some of the interesting points there. This is the Good Life Market.
Look at that. That is so cool.
Yeah, it was called the Pleasant View House before Route 85 was very heavy, and they had a lot of visitors there. There was a lot of inns in Raymond. Quite a few people used to like to come here. We had Foreign Hall on Main Street, and they had operas. They had singers from New York City, and
Wow.
really a lot of nice things that happened, especially during the summer. But yeah, so the boat landing obviously is from the western side of Route 85 looking up, and then the other view is coming up 302. This was called, it was the Elm Tree Inn, and then it was the Raymond, and then it was a general store. But this is where the town building is now on Main Street, that kind of homely little cinder block thing. This got torn down in the 60s and they replaced it with that, sadly. But that was another really neat place. I had a picture too that for some reason I couldn't get it to upload into my Google picture folder, but they had like a menu and happenings going on all the time as well. And people got there. This is a boardwalk that came up from just past Raymond Beach. There's a little island and it's called Wharf Road, and it goes all the way up through to Main Street. But the canal boats would bring people up from Portland, and then they would get off here and go up into the village. So,
Oh my God.
yeah, it's really neat. More pictures of the village. This is actually, the first one on the left is if you were standing in front of the current Raymond Public Works building and looking west. Both of those buildings are gone. There was a barn on the left, and the little hotel that you see was called the Lafayette on the right, and that was directly on the corner of 121, where well, it was Sebago Dental. Now it's just, I don't know what it is, real estate and an apartment. But yeah, that was there. That burned in like 1900, I think.
Isn't that middle house still there?
That's my parents' house.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had to throw that in there, because that was built by one of our relatives, in 1877. And then the picture on the right is, hang on, mine is not what they used to be. Is looking from just a little bit east of Mill Street towards 121. There was another store on the corner just past, Gordon Lindsay's house called Jordan and Eagers, and they actually printed some of the postcards that I have. So there were quite a few more buildings on Main Street back then. That, I don't know if you recognize that house in the back, that's Sherry Clark's house on Main Street. There's a gas station there, which is just,
In a gas station on Main Street.
there was two.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
There was another gas tank right in Jenny Cummings' yard, right on the corner.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. And then the building on the top right, that is that Jordan and Eagers store that's right beside Gordon Lindsay's, right on the corner of Mill Street. And that, and the house, I don't know how long people have been here, but there was the next house up Mill Street, number 3 Mill Street, and then the next one, they all shared one well, and there was a little windmill out there. But somebody went out and dumped their fire ashes, and then there was a big fire in like 1912, and so all 3 burned.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. I didn't want to turn this into a full-out lecture, so I haven't included all of the pictures. And then that very last picture on the bottom where that gentleman is walking, that building is also not there. That was just before, like after, it'd be to the left of Sherry Clark's now, and it's just a little thatch of woods. But I believe someone said it was an undertaker's office. I'm not sure if that's accurate or not. I'm running out of people to ask questions of. So, and of course this is the fish hatchery on Mill Street, how it used to look. It's been there forever. And the salmon. This gentleman on the right, I know his last name was Libby, and I can't remember if it was George or Oren, but it did say, and they were in a lot of the older Raymond pictures. And the house that you can see up behind them was Joyce Charette. She still lives over there on Mill Street, but it's set back now. But that was the house where all the granite stones are now at the side of the road. I think one of her sons had cleaned them up last year. I had a great big barn, like it was like the talk of the town. It was for this is just the 1871 map. We're going to try to get it hopefully recreated so that it can be for sale for anybody, but it shows all the homesteads from 1871. And it has Raymond, Casco, Naples, because even parts of Naples belonged to Raymond originally, like up towards Brandy Pond. We're almost done. And this, of course, the house that Jack built. Couldn't leave that out. A lot of people were saying on the page early on that they wish that this could be like moved and restored, but it's a private residence, so I don't even know how that would.
Does somebody actually live in it, or is it like a garage?
Sean lives there, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So I haven't been in there since I was probably like 6 years old and Kay Timmons was still alive, so I have no idea what it would look like now. That was eons ago. But it would be cute. Like, there were some people at the Historical Society meeting on the weekend that were like saying how they could picture every single detail of the inside still to this day.
Wow.
And that they would love to go back in. This is East Raymond. I couldn't do this without including a picture of the town hall, which is on the right. The store on the left is E.R. Clow.
And your
And-
complaint, town office.
Yep. And
The
then
house has been there a long time.
the church, yeah. And just the house on the very corner is the one that's gone now. Pine Grove Farm. This had belonged to,
Is that down there off of Mill Street?
yeah, that's Kingsbury. That was the
Kingsbury,
original
yeah.
farm. And then when he passed away, he had the house torn down because he didn't think anyone would take care of it, and he couldn't go to his grave thinking that it might fall apart. And then he gave my great aunt the house that Jeff Murdoch lives in now. Is where my Aunt Gert lived, and then they kept a track down to the lake and sold the rest.
Wow.
But yeah, it was quite a place. And these are just random pictures. The top left is another inn. That was where Diane Lapierre's daycare is now. And
On 302?
yeah, yep,
Bingo's, Pam's place. Yeah, wow.
yeah. And then
That middle picture looks like a tough day.
yeah, and that was going across 302 Panther Run,
That's a day room.
which they used to call the Jordan River, but it was heading, they were heading west on 302. It took forever to kind of like place what direction they were going, and some people thought
Oh,
that
yeah.
was Mill Street, so, and then the river scene, that's gotta be Mill Street, because those rocks are still there. And I don't know how many people knew that Maine actually used to have, or Raymond had a corn business. They sold corn, sugar sweet corn, right where Indian Point is. It was a great big building that went way back.
Wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah, Nat Henry Foreign owned Foreign Hall, which was the one that had all of the plays, all of that. And last one, I think. Yes, these are just a couple of the baseball teams that Raymond used to have, 1909 and 1912.
Is that you, Sam?
I was going to say, was he in one there?
So,
God, he beat you to it.
so,
Wow.
and that is
Thought I saw him over there.
the last one that I put on for today, because I did not want to, like I said, I want to take up all your time, but
No, I think this
What
is
year
cool.
was that?
Yeah, it's cool.
1909? Oh, I was only 2 years old.
I think this is so cool. I really do, and it's neat. And it's funny because me living in an old house on 85, I had Ernie Knight come over and he was talking to me a little bit about the house, which was really cool.
yeah.
So trying to figure out more about that. But no, anybody that's on Facebook, it's the history of Raymond, and and so many people are chiming in and putting pictures like, oh, I know them, and I'm related now to so and so, and yeah.
Yeah, I
So
told the
it's cool.
Historical Society they should get a ancestry account, so if somebody says, I was related to this person, they can help them figure out how, if they don't
Yeah.
already know,
Got a lot of old pictures.
so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, no, thank you so
Yeah.
much for bringing those. Yes.
Yeah, sorry I was late, I got a detour when,
Oh, yeah. So we did. You're almost late too. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
So, cool.
thinking I was gonna be fast getting here.
No. So thank you so
All right,
much
well,
for coming.
thanks for
Thanks.
inviting
Thank
me.
you.
All
Thanks.
right, take care.
All right. Consideration of appointment of Karen Lockwood to Recycling Committee.
I'll make a motion to appoint Karen Lockwood.
I'll second that.
All in favor? All right. It's easy. All right. Consideration of resignation of Anna Keeney from RSU 14 Board of Directors. Anna is moving to Wyndham. So one of the things that we're going to be, so can I have a motion first for that?
So moved. Second.
All in favor? All right, so now we're back to last month we did this, consideration of appointment to fill RSU Board 14 Board of Director vacancy. Madeline Redmond has withdrawn her her offer to want to be on that board position. So we are down with Sarah. Sarah's here, and Shar is here. So Sarah, do you want to go ahead and go up front because you weren't here last time?
Good evening, Madam Chairman, Selectmen of the Town of Raymond. My name is Sarah Davis. I live at 85 Tenny Hill Road in Raymond. I have 2 children, 2 girls, 9 and 12 years old. I have been in Raymond 8 years. I'm from away, as they say. I came from the booming metropolis of Bridgeton, just to the west of us. Since moving to Raymond, I have been deeply involved in the community. I have been the president of the Raymond Recreation Association for the last 2 years. Before that, I was heavily involved in that committee before taking over as president. I have been on the PTO at the school. I have worked on the withdrawal committee. I assisted with one of the subcommittees. I am a lawyer by trade. I spend a lot of time in politics. My time in politics began when I was in high school, when I lobbied against a jet ski ban on Highland Lake in Bridgeton, Maine. And since then, I've been heavily involved. I work for Consolidated Communications. I am the Senior Director of Government Affairs. I spend a lot of time in Augusta. I understand technology really well. I understand the new challenges that face our students in the technological age. I think it's important, as we went through this pandemic, to understand those things. I also am really passionate about education and the role education plays. Unlike most people, I think education is an extremely personal situation. I think it's difficult to educate a mass, but that's our challenge on the school board, and one I look forward to and accept it. As most of you know, the Raymond Rec Association has been moved to the town under your rec department, which is really exciting and wonderful, but has created a hole in my schedule. And so that I look forward to a new challenge, and I hope that you find that I will be the right volunteer for the school board. And with that, I'm happy to take any questions you have.
You know it's a 1 year, well, it's just. It's
Till
just a
voting.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am, I do.
All right. Anybody have any questions?
Well, it sounds like you've been into a lot. I definitely appreciate that, and I hope that continues.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Rolf, any? Nope.
Thank you.
Thanks. You gave a great presentation. Do you want to get back up there and update things?
So, good evening. My name is Shar Jewell. I live at 17 Hartley Lane in Raymond. Born and bred in Raymond. My family moved here, majority of my family moved here in the 50s, but as Alice was going through the pictures, I recollected that my family has actually been in Raymond much, much longer. I have like a third removed grandmother that was born in the Crockett House. So anyway, so been around a long time. So my background, as the Select Board heard last month when I spoke, is human resources. I have been in human resources for 25 plus years, progressive responsibilities over the years for various companies, including Barber Foods, Oakhurst Dairy, Cisco Food Service, Anania and Associates, and now Performance Food Group. So I have a lot of experience with people of different socioeconomic backgrounds as well as ethnic backgrounds. At Barber Foods, we had 46 nationalities. And until you've given a open enrollment benefits presentation or a new hire presentation to a group where you had to have interpreters, you haven't lived. So you know, our school system isn't tremendously diverse, but I can see that changing. One of the things I neglected to mention last month is that I have been heavily involved in the COVID policy making for our company for the last 18 plus months. So I've learned a lot. And one of the major things that we've discovered is the number of people that are moving to our area from away. People have realized they don't have to live in a big city to have a great job. They can do it remotely. So I see, you know, in the coming years that we're going to get a lot more diverse. And having someone that's used to dealing with different socioeconomic levels and different ethnicities and religious backgrounds, we're just going to get more diverse. You know, the United States has always been the melting pot. We here in Maine haven't melted so much, but I think that's going to change dramatically in the coming years. So Back to COVID, very well versed, and I know that the school board meeting tomorrow night, they're gonna be talking about it. I plan on attending, whether I'm appointed tonight or not, because it's important. You know, the number of people that go about their daily lives and don't get involved in government, you know, regardless of what level it is frankly a shame. You know, our country was formed to have representation and have a voice for the people. And I had commented last month that I'm in a place in my personal life and my career that I can become more involved. So it's about time I get off my rear end and do something about it. So I'm looking forward to this opportunity to be able to get my feet wet, so to speak. I did serve on the planning board when I was in my early 20s, and that was certainly an experience. And but so I'm looking forward to being able to serve the town, serve the community, serve the students of the RSU, and learn a lot, and hopefully be of value to the organization, and see what comes in the future. Do you have any questions?
Anybody have any questions?
I do not.
No?
Okay.
What is your
Thank you.
Oops.
Yes.
background in financial aspects? One thing about the RSU 14, the questions will come up, and you'll have to face them.
Oh, absolutely.
About fiscal.
Yep. So I went to college for accounting.
You got it.
And in my position as Vice President of Human Resources, I'm heavily involved in budgeting and forecasting for our company, and work very closely with the Chief Financial Officer on a daily basis. We talk every day. And so we're making financial decisions based on our history and based on forecasts for sales and expenses, and do that every single day.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
That's it? All right.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
I'll
What do
make a
you-
motion for charge roll.
Motion to what?
For sure. Jewel?
Sure.
I'll second that.
Just, I want to be clear, the resignation is not effective until after tomorrow's meeting. So,
I was gonna raise my hand, yeah.
yeah,
Thank you for that.
but I saw your thinking, so.
So, all right, so it wouldn't take effect until after tomorrow's.
Right.
Okay, so, any more discussion?
I'd just like to say, we had some really good applicants for this
Yes, we
position.
do.
Yes,
We did, and thank you,
Well, excellent.
thank you for that.
It was nice to
thank
see
you.
everybody step up, it really was, and, you know, it was a close call last time, and, you know,
Yeah.
and now we have another opportunity, but everybody who applied was terrific, and
Yeah.
Yes.
thank you for that.
definitely, thank you.
Yes. All right, and no more discussion? All in favor?
Congratulations.
Thank you. And Sarah, thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
All right,
Thanks.
Bob O'Neill. Grab him.
Are we gonna, we're jumping,
Hmm?
Bob O'Neill standing outside.
but we're jumping the agenda?
No, we're going right to F, which is discussion of short-term rentals.
Oh, is that why he's here?
Yeah, because he's on planning.
Alex is,
Oh, okay.
I don't think she's out there.
Alex isn't here.
Alex isn't here yet either. He might be outside. Oh, there he is.
No, he
So-
isn't. He just walked in. Oh, he's standing beside Bob, okay.
Here just in case.
This is a discussion.
Right, this way, right here.
I mean, what I think is, start the discussion.
All right, so the next one is discussion of short-term rentals. A gentleman came to our last meeting and raised it as he wanted this on an agenda item. And we also received an email today from someone in town regarding this. And I got a phone call from a gentleman that was also talking about this. So is the gentleman in the back?
Over there.
Yes. Can you stand up, please? Thank you. I didn't see him back there.
before we get going, is everyone who's gonna speak a Raymond resident?
No.
I will make a motion to allow non-residents to speak on this item.
Second.
Second,
You're the one I talked to on the phone?
Yeah, I own property here.
Yes, that's
Right.
what I was gonna say. Okay, yeah, so, yeah, all right. Okay, so,
We have a motion on the floor
And seconded.
to allow non-residents.
okay, all in favor? Thanks. I'm feeling that this might be a little bit of a tense discussion.
Shouldn't be.
Well, I'm just saying, so I just like to keep it cordial, okay? All right, go ahead. And your name and your address, please.
Absolutely. Good evening, Mike Richmond. I'm here with my wife Nicole. We live at 15 Cedar Lane. And here basically just to open a discussion regarding short-term rentals, and I will try to keep it brief, but I did take some notes. As you can see, there's some town residents here tonight to support this effort and understand it. However, what I'm going to say really is our opinion, not necessarily the voice of everyone's. To be very clear, we are not against residents having rental properties. We are not against residents having small businesses in their homes. We are not against residents maximizing their financial income with their properties. However, we do have an issue, or we are against, non-residents, companies, or groups of investors building a home to be used as a rental property in a residential neighborhood. We are against the idea that a property in a residential neighborhood can be developed into a rental facility and run as a business by people who don't live here. We are against short-term rentals at residential properties when the owner is not on site. As you probably know, the conversation of rental properties is a big nationwide discussion. There's states, municipalities wrestling with this all across the country, including the Maine legislature. Over the last few years, the development of these property has exploded across the country. So there's a lot of people much smarter than I am, trying to figure this out. But we're bringing it up now because we believe the town of Raymond has an opportunity to develop a game plan for this, and we're kind of hoping you do, before it's too late. This area with its gorgeous lakes and scenery, it's a perfect vacation destination, and we're concerned that this movement is coming hard and fast. Please understand that our position on this has nothing to do with residents having small businesses in their homes. Home daycares, accounting services, even sites that have cabin rentals. We have no problem with that. That's fantastic because the owner lives there. The owner is on the property. To me, it's that simple. Any home business where the owner is on site can simply fit into a residential neighborhood. We also don't have any issues with properties that rent to long-term guests. If a renter is there for a long time, they seem much more likely to gain appreciation for the neighborhood and be respectful neighbors. But when the owner is not on site and there are short-term rental occupants and it is run remotely, it can really lead to problems. The developers of these properties would argue that they have every right to use their property the way they want. And to an extent, I agree. But it should not be at the expense of other people's enjoyment or other people's safety. In order to maximize profits, these properties can be quite large to accommodate many guests and often boast of being able to charge about $1,000 a night. Yes, you may have a family looking for a nice quiet getaway, but you'll also get large groups of people cramming into the property to share the costs. They have weddings, family reunions, fraternity parties, and so on for brief stays. And these are the things that can lead to issues. Yes, these guests may help support local restaurants, businesses while they're in town, but by having these properties available, these guests are also not staying at other properties, such as motels, bed and breakfasts, that are managed by people on site and that are in their proper zones. So with this, I really don't know where this will go from here, but we hope it can lead to something. If the town does nothing, we can simply deal with the issues as they arise. Complaints of noise, parking, trash, parties, and everything that come along with them. Yes, we can react with the code enforcement officer, local law enforcement over and over, but should we have to? It does not fair to all residents to use these valuable municipal resources to help control these situations. Because the problem I hear of is this, in other towns that I've been involved in. There'll be a bad situation, a loud party or people almost out of control. Law enforcement comes in, they do their thing, they break things up, everybody leaves, but then that group moves on, and another group can move in immediately after. So our thought is to simply regulate that a property cannot be rented out unless it is owner occupied when someone wants to invite short-term rentals. Not long-term, short-term. Now, I'm not a lawyer, so I can imagine those terms are very hard to define, and I don't want to get into that. But to me, if somebody owns a property but does not actually live there for the majority of the time, then it is simply not their residence. At that point, it becomes a simply commercial venture. And how can we allow commercial ventures in residential neighborhoods? And how do we determine if a property is owner occupied? Do they have to be there for 6 months, 8 months? I realize some residents may be snowbirds and are only here during the summer months, and others less than that. And that's great if they can rent their property to long-term rentals while they're away. And how do we define short-term rental stays compared to regular stay? Is it less than 3 days, 5 days? I don't have those answers. So, not sure where this is going to go, but I asked the board to help set a path to figure this out. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I ask a question? Mr. Richmond, you say you are opposed to rental property where the owner is not on site.
Short-term.
For short-term rentals only.
So, the owner of property takes a vacation for a week, lists it on VRBO I'm gone for a week, you could have it.
No problem.
He's not on site.
Are you there the rest of the time primarily? Then
Don't
that's
know.
that's your residence.
I mean, but what if I live in Florida 8 months out of the year? I come up for the summer.
Are you renting to people long-term or short-term
Or a
for
week
quick
at a time?
for quick weddings?
A week at a time? I mean, it's pretty sticky.
I understand
It
that.
is.
Yeah.
I totally understand that. I've just seen what's happened in other municipalities with
Right.
this.
Oh, yeah. There's no
and
doubt there are
and it's
problems.
and it's a problem.
Yep.
Another thing is that there are properties now where investments have been made. In other words, the property has been purchased with the idea of renting it.
Yeah.
Short-term, perhaps, I don't know, short-term, but renting it. What happens to those people who have made $300,000, $400,000,
Yes,
$1 million investments.
or $1 million, yes?
That's an excellent question, and that's why I'm hoping that the board can react before it even gets worse.
Mr. Richmond first, and then have the other side.
Well, I happen to know that there are 1 or 2 of them already been made, so.
Oh, understood.
I'm glad you're not against people owning daycares out of their homes because I own the daycare down the street. So-
Totally different. And again, to us long-term renters, no problem. It's renting it for a weekend and jamming 30 people in those places.
Have you had
That's
an
what it is.
issue in your area?
No, I have not.
Okay.
The area I work in constantly for the last 20 years, yes. And,
All right.
and I see that coming this way.
Okay, so anybody that's not in favor of doing long-term rentals, that's here on, that agrees with him and wants to talk, you can feel free to go up if you want to.
I just want to ask a question.
You have to go to the podium, please. Thank you. Because we're on TV and they have to record you. Your name?
Mary Ann McGoldrick from 33 Patricia Avenue. Where have you worked in the last years that it's become a problem?
Please speak into the
Yeah,
microphone.
speak into the
Where have you worked for the last years that it has become a problem?
You have to go back up.
Yeah.
I've worked in Scarborough.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks. Not yet. Yeah, you could, don't worry, I'm gonna call on you soon. Anybody else want to speak up there that is opposed to renting their house out? Okay. Short term, sorry. I actually talked to a real estate person that I was asking her about this, and she said she does see it all over. I haven't heard any issues personally. She hasn't. She said in Bridgeton, there is one association that just did it, but it's really hard because the wording is still not down as to what they're doing, but not all of Bridgeton, just one association of it. So, yeah. You want to say something?
On the issue of complaints, I'm not saying that it isn't a real issue. It is a real issue. I've been 21 years here. I've received one issue, one complaint, one serious complaint, which I looked into and tried to mitigate. It was a short-term rental, and it was on Crescent Lake, and it was something order of magnitude like a fraternity party or something like that. It was a noise complaint, and it was very disturbing to the neighboring property. It went on for a couple of days. That was 10 years ago.
All right, so I'm going to have the other side now come up. All right, thank you.
Good evening. I'm Mark Meisler. I live in Boulder, Colorado, and I own a vacation rental here known as Raymond Retreat, for those who have heard of it.
You own a couple, correct?
I own one. I own a couple pieces of land.
Yes,
I
right.
now own a piece of land next to Mr. Richmond, who I believe, another piece of land which I just purchased next to Mr. Richmond. So
Okay.
I believe is the predication for this conversation tonight.
Okay.
So my wife and I vacationed here since I was in. I've been vacationing since I was a kid. My wife and I have been vacationing here forever. We will retire in Raymond. This town means a ton to us. Our daughter swims in Panther Pond, and we wanted to build a house here. But I'm not a multimillionaire. I work at a consulting firm, and so we saved up all of our money, and we built a vacation rental. And we built that in 2016 on Panther Pond. It was built by all local artisans. We spent over $1.1 million. Our property taxes are $13,000 a year. We spent $20,000 a year in lodging taxes, which to Cumberland County. We spend over $100,000 in operating costs to all local Raymond businesses, including George, who does all of our laundry. We appreciate it greatly. We have been in operation 5 years. We talk to every one of our neighbors. We send a gift basket every year to one of our neighbors. We've never had the police come to our house. 3 of our renters have now purchased homes in Raymond over the past 5 years. This entire packet is all 5-star reviews from families across New England who have Raymond as their second home. They go to the Good Life Market, they go to Tasseltop Beach, and they love Raymond because of that. And so we take a great pride in the experience we have provided for locals, for out-of-staters to enjoy vacation land, as well as be an upstanding community to Raymond from a business community perspective. We work with DEP. We donate to every single Raymond charity, including the Raymond Library, the Fire Department, the Cumberland Police Department. All of the lakes associations were incredibly active. We do a ton of erosion control. We do volunteer children's events with the Raymond Library. So to bring in restrictive ordinances like this when there is no problem in Raymond today, to your point, we haven't heard any complaints whatsoever. It, to me, is beyond. It creates incredible risk, both to property values and the long-term viability of what is been a symbiotic relationship for over 5 decades in Raymond. So, with 300 plus rentals in Raymond on Airbnb and VRBO, and operations that are on what is traditionally large lots, we are not facing it. This is not a Rockwall, Maine, or a South Portland, or a Key West, Florida, where you have tiny lots and you have very challenging dynamics. Our lot is 3 acres. We don't have fraternity parties. We have families. And yes, it is very expensive at night, and it tends to draw a strong crowd. We don't host any events. We don't host weddings. We don't do any sort of event management, and we try to really respect the community. So I would say to even dabble in regulation in this space, I think creates risk for the real estate market. It creates risk for our tourism business, and it really creates property value risk. I'm happy to answer any questions about our property, and I'm here to vigorously defend the continuation of short-term rentals for Raymond.
Anybody have any questions for him? Just like me.
We are not writing an ordinance right now. We're having a discussion.
Right.
All right. How do you screen your guests who come and stay?
So every one of our guests that reaches out has to get pre-approval. And so we speak to our guests and we have a conversation and we understand we don't rent to under 25. We ask why they're coming. In the summer, we're week-long rentals. All of our summer rentals, not all, 80% of our summer rentals are repeat business. So we don't have this like churn that you hear. Most of our renters are repeat now, plus, and then off season, we do 3-day minimums. And we speak to every single guest, we understand what they're doing here, and we do host bachelor parties and bachelorette parties. But the assumption that these people are bad people and they're throwing wild parties, I think that's an invalid assumption. They're there to celebrate with their friends. And they have every right to do so on a property as long as they follow noise ordinances. And we have state-of-the-art technology, including cameras, noise monitoring, and we've never had an issue. We've been operating since 2016. I've never once had the police come out.
Do you do credit checks and all, or?
Well, with Airbnb and VRBO, they have a strong verification process, so they've invested heavily into that.
I'm too old to worry about
They do.
any of that stuff.
They vet heavily.
A good setup.
Yes, it is.
And we also have our own website, and we get guests from there. But most of ours is referral business. We at this point we're running 80% on referral business because we have all 5-star reviews. And
Where on Panther are you?
I'm on South on Giselle Lane.
Okay.
I'm next to in Gifford, the old Gifford Point.
Okay.
141,
12 Giselle. But and Martin neighbors the Holmquist, and I get tea with Anita, and we have a great relationship with our neighbors, and we've been there forever. So the idea that now that I have another piece of land that I purchased with friends from high school, and that we are going to build a second property, and we use it too. It's not purely an investment. We also come here. We'll be here in 2 weeks with our kids, and 2 other families in Boston that I grew up with. We bought a second piece of land, and the people he's referring to sent me the email. Like there's clearly we're using this legislative body to create regulations to protect one homeowner.
We're having a
from
discussion.
We're having a discussion.
Yes.
Apologize. We're having a discussion about potentially putting ordinances in place against a perceived problem. Like there isn't even an actual. When you look at Naples or Casco or some of the other towns that are exploring this, there are actual neglectful owners, and there are challenges there. And those towns are working through that. And I would be happy to look at ordinances that involve safety, environmental responsibility, but anything that restricts the the rentability of properties, I think, on a short-term basis, only restricts Raymond's economic viability.
Lonnie?
No more interrogation.
Yeah, everything that you've said is valid, and in my eyes, and it is. You're the upper echelon of where we're looking at. And he's worried about the lower, which is 100% out there. Everybody in this room knows it. So again, discussion. How can we make sure that scumbags can't get a rental and have a big blowout and mess with the girls down the street, or who knows what could happen, right? I mean, we all know what could happen. And we all envision the worst. None of us will, want to envision all, great. So I can 100% see where both of you are coming from. And we would never want to hurt the opportunity that you're offering. But you also know, smart young man, that the exact opposite of you are out there. Are they part of the 300 and whatnot rentals in Raymond? Hopefully not. But they are out there. So in order for us to, stay in front of that curve, which I'm hoping that we do, because we've missed the boat on a handful of things throughout the last couple of years, and we need to stay up with what's going to be best for the majority, right? Because we can't make everybody happy, but we want to do our very best. And it's a tough one. It really is.
It
and
is.
It's nothing that's going to, happen. We're going to write the ordinance, and it's going to happen in a day, let alone a couple of years probably.
We need to
It's just important to have these to cover our tracks, make sure our communities are safe. Really, at the end of the day.
Totally agree. I think permitting systems, putting a permitting program in place or inspection programs around safety and responsibility absolutely makes sense. And to your point, a property like ours, we follow the highest.
It's only going to make yours look that much better because whatever kind of
absolutely
expectations, you'll be the 5-star of it, right?
Totally agree. I think where to the point of the previous discussion, any sort of restrictive covenants on renting, I think is where we have to kind of hold the line on. we should put as much in place to protect the environment, the safety, and the community. Completely aligned and happy to participate. I'd love to be a member of that committee to drive those types of requirements. Because there have been other towns that have been very successful in that, but it's got to focus on safety, responsibility, and community respect, and environmental responsibility. Because I think the lakes are really important. We can't allow that any sort of the milfoil type stuff to come in, but it can't restrict economic viability.
Sorry, there's another letter that came in to it, and I just want to make sure I get her letter in an email, and it just says, I was asked by a client of the Good Life Market to weigh in on the agenda item coming up at tonight's meeting about short-term rentals, why I wouldn't necessarily pursue this on his behalf, and I'm not 100% clear on what the proposal entails. I do have concerns about the idea of limiting short-term rentals in Raymond. I can't be at the meeting, so I'm emailing you with my thoughts. Again, I don't know the details of what is being brought to the table, but in general, I am very opposed to starting to limit opportunities for homeowners to rent their properties privately as short-term rentals. I think this impinges overly on property owners' rights. I was born and raised here, and short-term rentals have always been the method for Raymond and the surrounding areas to accommodate vacationers. We don't have any meaningful hotel options, and many people want to visit the lakes regions. This is important to businesses and the local economy, but it's also important to the culture of the town. People who have moved here from away have become valuable and productive members of our community, volunteering, enhancing property values, forming friendships, bringing cultural differences and diversity to our town. These people all likely started visiting Raymond by staying in a short-term rental. Why start limiting those opportunities now? Additionally, private rentals of property helps homeowners support improvements to their properties and the community. Finally, short-term rentals allow increased access to Raymond's beautiful lakes and lands, which not everyone can afford to purchase and own independently. She says she looks forward to learning more about what is being proposed about short-term rentals, and she's happy to talk to us. And that was Linda Manchester, and Linda Manchester is from the Good Life Market. So I just wanted to make sure I got her in there. All right, so is anybody,
Yeah, there's another gentleman that.
well, right, that's why that's not opposed, that is opposed to putting restrictions on. Want to talk? Okay.
Hi, my name is Dennis Frappier. I live on Raymond Cape. I'm maybe one of the newbies that doesn't know anything. I've only been doing this for 2 years, but I've done long-term rentals, and I've had bad dogs. I've had cars up on blocks in my yard, and I've had all kinds of problems in long-term rentals. The short-term rentals I've had in the last 2 years, they're almost like family. These people come, they want to enjoy the waterfront, they want to have a barbecue, they want to see pine trees and woods. You know, it's like a breath of fresh air compared to long-term rentals. I love it. I recently bought a property in Kanab, Utah, which is way in southern Utah, because I'm semi-retired and I'm a real estate investor, and they welcome short-term rentals. In this little tiny community of about the size of Raymond, actually, there's more than 13 hotels, and there's hundreds, many, I don't even know how many hundreds of short-term rentals they are there. And the economy there is booming. It's thriving. And my wife and I are going on we call it a winter desert adventure. We're going to go and rehab this house, put a new kitchen, new baths in this house, and we're going to take a 2-family house and turn it into a 3-unit short-term rental, because it's a great thing to do. Not only does it help my cash flow position and build equity, but it builds a community. I'm very opposed to regulations that just blankly limit what you can do with your property, whether you live there or whether you invest there. You know, people who are investing their money are doing it for the benefit of the community and for their benefit. You know, it has to be a mutual benefit. And I think there are some perceived risks associated with bad people coming. And you know, you hear about the bad person and the party and the druggies or whatever, and you know, that one bad experience gets magnified many, many times over when it's really just a minority, and you got to not do that. You know, I don't have all the controls that he has, but I'm going to learn more about him, because now I'm going to have an absentee property in Utah next year after I rehab it. So I'm very enthused about the business and about what it does to a recreational and vacation community, and I think that's probably the most perfect match that Raymond could have in the future. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think you ended up, yep.
My name's Mark Gifford. I live at Gifford Point, 19 Gifford Point. My dad sold a chunk of property to a developer. He didn't sell it for the maximum amount. He retained covenants on that property, so we would have architectural review on what was built. Mark's house is one of those homes. The Holmquist is one of those homes. The Hebolts once had a home on the property. Ernie Johnson is another one. I don't know where I sit on this issue. I just want to offer you folks a perspective, maybe middle of the road. I have no idea what short-term, long-term means. I don't know how you qualify it, and I certainly wouldn't attempt to put restrictions on properties and rent them under those kind of terms. I can tell you that ideally this isn't personal, but it is personal because I'm on the point, and I have had dealings with Mark, so somebody that is renting the property since he's been there since 2016. There have been multiple incidents that were unnerving and probably inappropriate, and we addressed them as neighbors. We didn't call, we didn't write an email, so there isn't a history. I do have a history in my email to support that, so I don't think it's fair for anybody to assume that things have been perfect and everybody that lives on the point in the neighborhood hasn't been inconvenienced at different times. Whether it's loud noise, drinking, inappropriate language, hours, the same kind of things you would have with any other neighbor. And you go and you talk to them. You say, please don't leave your beer cans on the street. Don't drive as fast. Your guests keep knocking on my door at 3 in the morning thinking it's your door. It happens. And you have bad renters once, and then you take care of them. I mean, that's been my experience. But the ground is somewhere clearly in the middle of where you are and the story you portray about your property. So I just think as the town moves forward, you have to give consideration to the history you just saw up here. Understand there's going to be progress. People are going to sell their homes. Other people are going to rent them. People that once lived in Maine or in Raymond can't afford it anymore. And how do you create a balance where the town has a blend of people that can spend $5,000 to $7,000 a week to go to Raymond Retreat, where they can make $20,000 working in the local store pumping gas.
Did Tim Pomerlow build all those houses down there?
He did. Well, there was Five Star Realty, and they're a partnership of
Right.
4 or 5 gentlemen. Timmy was one of them.
And Wayne.
Wayne was one.
Yeah.
Yeah. And obviously the property has been enhanced by Mark's house. It's got tremendous amenities. I spend an awful lot of time talking to friends and say, as a real estate investor, if you want to do it right, go look at the Raymond Retreat website and emulate it, because he's done a fine job. But that's Mark. You're not always going to get a Mark. I wrote him an email, and I was fairly articulate about where I thought this could head within the first 2 months of him renting to people. And he did everything in his powers to address it. And I'm not pulling sides, but he put covenants in his rental agreement that limited how people could use it. People parked on the side of the road. 25 cars parked on the side of the road one day on somebody else's property, not his. And he put no trespassing signs up there on behalf of the neighborhood so people wouldn't park there anymore. I found the no trespassing signs more offensive than the cars, because now my guests drive through and they see these signs. But we work the balance on that. But again, you won't always have a Mark. You won't always have you. I don't know if you deploy third-party resources to look at, but I think it's worth the town spending some time and some resources to give it consideration how you handle it. I, for one, probably should have shared some of our conversations with the town. Not to get you in control, but to get others in control that might not be as sensitive to the neighbors.
I mean, I have neighbors that, not where I absolutely live, but across the lake, that shoot fireworks off at 1 o'clock in the morning. And they're Raymond residents, but the law is you're not supposed to shoot fireworks after 10 o'clock. But people do it, you know, and I don't think they're renters. I think they're actually folks that come up for the summer, but, you know, it's okay. Occasionally, it's okay, as long as it's not constant.
And that is always,
Yeah.
when I was between 25 and 35, every Labor Day, Memorial Day, and 4th of July, we had 30 people at the house.
Yeah.
My parents loved seeing my friends. They went to bed late. We stayed up. If anybody's been around, you remember we played volleyball with lights on the peninsula, 24/7 with ACD blasting, WBLM as loud as we could go, and nobody said anything.
That was a long time ago, wasn't it?
Now, in the 70s, early
Yeah.
80s. Now, when I hear that, my kids can't go to sleep. I go, guys, it's only this weekend. It won't be all the time.
Right.
And
What
so
do you
have to
think
put up
about
with it.
this whole permitting, licensing? You know, if you're gonna do that, you're gonna go in and go, you don't have any fire sprinklers here, right? You know, so you can't rent it out. You know, you're gonna set the standard that's too high to meet.
I work in corporate real estate, and we develop large tracts of property, and I work for Fortune 500 companies. I understand the business. I know that my house has a septic system that is sized for the amount of bathrooms.
Right.
But I know the amount of water that flows through that is considerably different when there's 18 people there 200 days a year, as opposed to my family, and we're coming up on weekends. So I think there are some things that you can do in the permitting process on the front end that will help protect the valuable resources and what we want to protect. You know, maybe there's parking, there's limits in pervious materials, so that you can still have nice rentals, but you position it so that people that want to bend the system will have a more difficult time doing it.
I mean, we don't have a sewer system. So you have septic tanks on that lake. So you put in an ordinance that says how many times a year you have to pump out the septic. How many people are you allowed to have because the septic is only so big? All that stuff gets costly, though, at some point.
We're paving driveways, we're putting patios in the back. That's all stuff that stops. I don't know if this is true, but you know, the neighbors are swimming in their swimming hole, and there's vegetation there that they haven't seen in a long time or have never seen before. Is it because we now have fertilizer and people have green plots of grass in their yard that before it was always pine needles? So again, there are a lot of things that you can look at that protect the environment, but also address this issue to some level.
I mean, you hope that people aren't using fertilizer next to the lake. Or if they are, it's phosphorus-free and, you know. I mean,
It's illegal.
So I just.
Nope. I just want to make sure that everybody else can talk too. Yeah, thank you for that. Anybody else want to talk? Dana? Oh, Dana, wait a minute. Are you in favor of?
I'm neutral.
Okay.
I just wanted to add my nickel's worth. Dana Desjardins, 64 River Road. That gentleman with the septic system pretty much covered. I live on the River Road, and they have a lot of rentals there. One of the camps right now has 26 people for a septic system that's designed for 6. That's a problem, and it needs to be addressed. You're also commercializing. It's commercial. Are these people paying taxes, you know, when they collect rent? That's something that was always in the back of my head. Do they claim it to the IRS, the state? I mean, I wouldn't, but you know, that's me. But why give them more than they have already? But no, it's just the septic, and there's a way to find out if people are using fertilizers, and that's something that Raymond Waterway, the people that live on the lake could do themselves. There's a dye that you put in, and you can go around the lake, and if there's an area that you have problem with sewage leaching into the lake, that you throw a pill in there basically, and it turns color. If it turns color, that individual has a problem.
Yep.
And there are a lot of problems on Panther Pond, big time. And a lot of it has to do with summer rentals. Noise, I hear it. I hear it, and we had some really bad people rent a couple places on the road I live on. I made a couple complaints to the owners of the place. They live in Connecticut, they don't care, you know. They come up one weekend a week, and that was it, you know. They sold the place, and I don't know if the new people do that, but for the most part, if you tell them, they won't, you know, rent again. But you're taking a septic design, and some of these places are very old. You're taking a septic design that's going to be overwhelmed, and I don't know how you're going to mitigate that and fix it, whatever. But that's the biggest issue I have, because if you're talking about the environment, raw sewage in a lake is going to cause a lot of algae.
Yep.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of algae in Panther. I fish it,
Yep.
and I see it a lot. So
Well,
that's
a lot
that's-
of those old houses are grandfathered.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
they were built back in the
Oh,
40s. you
yeah,
know?
there's still probably a couple
Right.
cesspools.
Yeah.
You know, wooden septic tanks.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised by that. And if if they put a new septic system in, a lot of times, Joe, they don't remove the old one.
Right.
You know, they build and forget about it. But those old septic systems do create problems. Just wanted to give you guys a heads up. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dana.
Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else want to speak? No? No? You wanted to say something else. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I would just respond to, I think all of your points are really valid. I think the call is we have a lot of these legal ordinances in place. If there is a party, you call the police. And to be clear, I've never had the police called to my property to my awareness. So in 5 years, I appreciate Mr. Gifford's opinions, and I think we have talked about, the challenges of having a rental property. There's no question it's more noise than not having a property at all. I mean, that's given. But I think the existing structures are in place, and whether you're a renter or whether you're a local, to your point on the fireworks, these laws exist. You can't just cram people in and overuse a septic design. I mean, you're not supposed to do that today. Short-term rental doesn't change that dramatically. The zoning ordinances, the shoreline building permit process is quite strict. All the local builders are quite strong. That we use Island Cove Building and Mike Meyer. He follows all those processes. He knows exactly what we're trying to do. We pump our septic once a year, if not more. So I mean, I think all these things we can put, I think, literature and educational processes. I just don't know how we regulate this, and I honestly don't know how you enforce it without creating a massive enforcement arm that becomes a very a big challenge to manage.
Right. I have Alex here. I also have Bob O'Neill here tonight, the planning board. I just wanted to be here. So Alex, I'm gonna have you stand up. Before Alex talks though, I pay my mortgage. I pay my insurance. So I would hate to have somebody tell me what I can do and not do with my own property. But that being said, I have, I think, 1,000-gallon septic tank that I pump twice a year because I have a daycare out of my home, and they love to put toilet paper in that septic. So yeah, so we do that as a precaution. So Alex, go ahead with that one.
Well, I get to tell people what to do with their property all day, every day. So.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
These are code enforcement.
Yeah,
by the way.
Alex, code enforcement officer for the town. If you guys have any questions, I can take any questions. I think if I am just to put anything out there, I would say the biggest concern I would have would be enforcement, how we enforce this. The current status of the code enforcement office, I would say we're not in a position to take on any additional ordinances to enforce.
Oh, come on, Alan.
Maybe in a year, maybe in 6 months, maybe in a month, but not today. So I just want to give you that to think about as well. And when it comes to enforcement, there would be a lot of questions I would have. If it's coming down to, are we going to be knocking on doors to count how many people are there? You know, is it going to be a call on a Saturday if someone sees 20 cars on the side of the road, you know, and there's a big party going on? You know, how's all that going to work? Would be, I think, some of the thoughts that I would have. And how do we enforce it if there is a violation? Do you guys have any questions for me?
Alex, what is currently on the books that would even touch upon any of this?
Well, like you said, there is a general occupancy rating for a dwelling. So if you have a 3-bedroom septic, then you have, you know, a 3-bedroom house. The problem is, how many people can you fit in a bedroom? Do you have, you know, 4 bunk beds in a large room? Is that 1 bedroom? Are we counting the number of people? So it is based on bedrooms. So if you have a 2-bedroom camp and one of the bedrooms is 20 by 20, you can probably fit 16 people in there. So we do have the septic restrictions, but again, it comes down to how well you can actually enforce that. And we don't have a noise ordinance. There is some state law that the sheriff's department can go off of, but generally it falls under disturbance of the peace, and that can be pretty challenging to actually have enforced as well. So from there, it's really just general, you know, land use, parking requirements. I mean, they're all things that get very difficult when you're talking a residential property. There isn't anything in the ordinance that really applies to short-term rentals, so we don't have any language in there now. The only thing that we do have would be requirements for accessory apartments, and the requirements or the ordinance restrictions on an accessory apartment are pretty basic. There's really not a whole lot in there.
So, but if somebody was to file a complaint with code for a short term, they're going to call you. You are going to say, okay, well, by the time that you can get to that complaint, these people are gone, and it's already moved on to the next group of
Yeah, that could be
people.
the case, and it could depend
Right.
on the complaint. I mean, if they're just complaining about noise and trash and, you know, cars parked all over a lawn, by the time I get down there to look at it, yes, they'll probably be gone. The trash might still be there, but at that point, that probably becomes a health issue, and not necessarily a land use issue. And, you know, there are some things that the health officer might be able to do in these types of situations, but again, if it's short term, it's going to be quick.
Do they have to tell you when they're building the house that they're going to use it as a rental?
No.
Okay. So my take, I guess, on this is I think we're getting into civil matters when someone's having an issue with their neighbors. So if I have a problem with my neighbor doing something, I'm going to talk to them, or it's going to have to go to court because I don't think it's a code issue. And I think, again, once again, and I'm speaking on behalf of myself, it's just a matter of, you know, it's my property, this is what I pay for it. But on the other hand is, if someone that I rent my house to, if I do it, if there's damage to my neighbors, I will be paying for that because that's my responsibility. But I think that we're getting in an area that we don't belong in, to be honest. So that's just me. Go ahead.
Alex, the city of South Portland tried to regulate this somehow, and they had a big uprising by many of the people who own those houses. Have you looked at their ordinance and how restrictive it is, or does it limit you to 2 weeks at a time, or?
No, I don't know for sure. I do know, I have looked, you know, at a bunch of different towns, but I did try to keep it this area, Lakes region mostly. I just feel like it wouldn't make sense for us to model something from a much larger.
Well, South Portland, the area was Willard Beach area, down by SMCC. I mean, you got a lot of waterfront property down there, and people rent those places out.
Wasn't the issue there more, there were, the complaints were it was taking away from the hotels, not that it was the short-term rental per se, but it was the fact that they were taking away from the hotels, and that's what they were worried about.
Which to me is full. Full.
Well, I mean, that ship sailed a long time ago. You know, if the state doesn't require these rentals to meet the same things that hotels and motels need to go through, we blew it as a state. Because now, you don't have to have a fire sprinkler, a fire extinguisher, and all that stuff if your house is 30 years old. So, you know, that should have been handled by the state. They let it go. And as a capitalist, I look at it and go, you own the property, you do what you want with it, but don't disturb your neighbor.
Right.
It's your property.
Respect. Yeah.
You should somehow have oversight over it and not bother your neighbors.
The tough part of it is there is an absolute majority or a group of people, there is a percentage of people that they don't, last thing they want to do is go tell their neighbor to quiet down or to confront them for whatever they're doing wrong.
I would
So, I
call
mean,
the
there's that
landlord.
piece.
I mean, I'd call the owner.
Yeah.
I got the owner's phone number if you're gonna rent it out. I mean, long-term
But
rentals.
that means what?
to me-
What if the disturbance comes at the end of the street? Or it's, there's, it's
No,
just not
I hear
foolproof
you.
at all.
It isn't, but, how do you manage it? I just.
You don't.
Right.
You don't.
Right.
You can't do that, I don't think. I think we're getting into an area
Yeah.
that is overseen by law.
You want to say that, yes, you
No,
own the
no.
house, you rented to them, you are liable.
Yeah.
But man,
Yeah.
what if they do something horrible wrong and now you're saying the owner of it, it's their
Oh,
fault?
yeah, because the
Well-
owner assumes the risk.
Look,
Because they're the one that's putting it
yeah,
out.
if you pollute the lake because
Yeah.
of who you rented it to,
Yeah.
you should be
you're-
responsible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For the cleanup, the DEP showing up, or what, somebody drives in drunk, drives into the lake, car has to be pulled out,
It's yours, you own it.
you own it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't know that you write an ordinance to do that.
Bob, what's your 2 cents on this? He says, really? I was hoping to hide back there.
I was hoping. To be honest, Bob O'Neill from the planning board.
He's the chair of the planning board.
I was just trying to listen to both issues presented and try to think about how we would address this in an ordinance. And I don't see any way that you're able to address this in ordinance and making it fair to both sides, and also not being some sort of restrictive to somebody that restricts something else on the other side.
You
Right.
could not put
So,
together a coverall ordinance.
Yeah, I don't see that as an issue.
I think that's one of the reasons why I asked him to be here tonight, because in case we did send it to you, you're hearing firsthand what everybody's saying, and you do this, so no, thanks. And I don't know, I can understand, I get what you're saying, I really do, as far as one side of it, but on the other hand is, I would hate, again, to have somebody tell me what to do, but saying that I'm the owner, so I'm the one responsible for anybody's damage or property is what it is. I'm sorry.
Just one thing. Dennis Frappia from Cape Road. I think we're thinking about all of the things that could go wrong. I've talked to my neighbors, like he has neighbor relationships. My neighbors think it's a great idea. I've talked to them, they're good with it, and if they have a problem, all they have to do is call me.
Right.
I'm more concerned about it than all you folks are about what's happening on my property.
How close are you to
Yeah,
your
that's
neighbors?
exactly right.
I'm close.
Are you?
Yeah, I live right down at 346. I've got Dennis Morse and the Sneeze right next to me,
What's
and Larry.
Fire lane 346.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, I live at 346 Cape
Sorry.
Road.
Okay.
But it's a small community. We all know each other. We all work together. But I think the potential problems are always going to be there, and it's how you prevent them and how you work together as a community. And they all have my phone number. If there's a problem, I want them to call me, not the code enforcement guy. I mean,
Right.
what's he going to do?
Right, right. Because if he's not breaking codes, you're gonna say, it's out of my control.
So I
Yeah.
just wanted to add that point, that it's
Okay.
a personal responsibility. And I think
Yeah.
people own it.
Yep, I agree.
Alex, do any towns charge a licensing or a permit fee.
An insurance, mandatory insurance maybe,
Yeah.
or?
But
Well-
you don't even know if people are even doing it.
So that's the other option. You know, there's really two paths forward. One is you have an ordinance that restricts short-term rentals and actually has standards that has to be inspected. And the other option is you treat it like a registration, and you have an annual fee or a one-time fee, and you collect money and information on who the owner is, and maybe some additional information like an emergency contact, and that's it. And every year you just collect that fee and update that information, and at least that way if someone calls and has an issue and complains, we know who owns the property and if there's any other information.
But we should have a record of who owns the property anyway. on the
We
tax
do,
rolls.
we do, yep.
But that makes us the babysitters then.
But yeah, exactly. So, and what do they get in return? They really don't get anything
Right.
for what they'd be spending.
And I don't think
Are they
again, it's not our
required
job.
to have commercial insurance?
I can
Or
answer
no?
Go ahead.
that. So I think required is not necessarily, I don't think it's required. So your homeowners are required. The mortgage company were required. So if you owned it in cash, in theory, I don't think you're required. Airbnb and VRBO both put liability shields specifically in front. So there's $2 million in liability and property damage. $1 million or $2 million in liability from VRBO and Airbnb. And then if you rent it individually, like through our website, we use a special insurance company called CBiz, which is underwritten by Berkshire Hathaway. And that is a special homeowners policy that includes short-term rentals, covers all of these types of issues, liability, the boats, the dock, the environment. There's a whole thing, and it's quite pricey.
Yeah.
I would say a lot of homeowners a lot of short-term rental owners are not quite insured correctly, which is, I think,
So
an
if
education
their house
issue.
burns down due to their rentals,
I'm covered.
yeah, you would be, but someone else, the insurance company could say, you're renting this
Yes.
as a commercial property,
That'd be good.
you're in trouble.
Yes, but if they rented it through Airbnb or VRBO,
Right, but
they
not
have
everybody
coverage.
uses that.
No.
Correct.
There's a
correct.
word of mouth.
Correct.
People go on Facebook
Correct.
or
Correct.
whatever.
If you're there's a
So
hole there.
there's a party going on at the house that you rent, and there's 25 people, and one guy is totally drunk, and he misses the driveway, goes into the neighbor's driveway, runs into the house.
My homeowner's insurance would cover that.
Okay.
And if they
But
wouldn't, I would be personally liable. And
Right, but again, that person would have to sue the other person that isn't properly insured. But again, that's not us.
Yeah,
That's
it
not our
opens a can of
responsibility.
wildly complex legal liability questions.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, right, no, sorry.
Yeah.
No, and does anybody else want to get up and speak on any of this? No? Okay.
That was a nice discussion, folks.
It really was. It was. Yes. Personally, I do not think that we should be right now getting into it. I don't think it's our position or our responsibility
I
to be
think we
telling.
can continue to gather information.
Yes,
And,
I agree.
it's not something that we haven't been looking at. We have been, and we've been aware of it. And now that it's been brought to our attention, I think if people want to continue to contribute information to us, if there are issues, we'd like to hear about them. I was just sharing my one experience with getting an actual complaint. That's not to minimize the significance of this. I'm sure there are other issues and complaints out there. So if people out in TV land or internet land want to, bring anything to our attention, we'd love to hear about it. And so I think I'd like to learn more about it. And I talked with Alex this afternoon. We did read some ordinances in other places. We'll continue to do that. And so that's what I'd like to do, is just continue to consider it and gather information.
I think the only thing too is people are worried about septics and stuff like that. If your septic's going to start backing up, you're going to smell it outside. So in that case, if they see it next door, he goes going, no. Then all of a sudden they can turn around and they can call the code then to say something's up. Yeah.
I'm not sure it's a bad idea to not have possibly to have a registry of potential, I guess, people who are doing this, so that we do have emergency contact information. and other
But we're
things.
not their babysitters though, too.
I understand that, but people do look to government for relief, and sometimes that's a good thing.
All right, we will keep this under our whatever for a little while.
Under advisement.
Under advisement, there you go, thanks. I have these two people that just whisper things all the time, different great words. So I thank you
They
guys
keep
for all
you
coming.
straight.
Yeah. So thank you guys for that.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everybody.
All All right, next one, consideration, I'm gonna give it a minute.
Yeah. Everybody clean up.
Thank you.
very much.
Thank you.
Definitely appreciate your knowledge.
Oh, yeah,
Yes.
you know, thank
Yes.
you.
And thank you.
I think you brought up some good points.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, so.
All right, we're just, sorry, we're holding on one more time. here. I know. Consideration of updated, all right, wait a minute. We're gonna wait. Thanks. Thanks for being here, Alex.
Yeah, thank you.
Bye. Wow, we have a full room now. All right, consideration of updated public property use agreement.
We had a opportunity this summer to look at the public property use agreement, and it had been quite some time. We had Phil Saucier look at it in light of law changes and whatnot. So there have been some small changes to the wording, and at this point, with Joe taking on the Parks and Recreation position, he'll really be the point person for this. He wasn't able to be here this evening, but this to redo the property use agreement is really more of a housekeeping. It was time to get it updated, get some of the information that we're collecting from people correct, give them a list. At the top of the application is a list of what the folks need to bring if they're going to use our property.
So this is the new agreement?
Yes, that's
So the property is like if they're gonna do, like we do a cookout at Tassel Top, or using their property, or what other public, like the
Yes.
fire station?
Well, for instance, the UCAN 5K uses our property, and
Okay.
we ran into some difficulties with that this
Yep,
year.
that's
And
right.
that's what
Thank you.
brought this to our attention.
Yep, nope.
But I think, well, since
With the insurances
since
and
Joe's
stuff.
going to now be heading up, if anyone's going to use the property, he has a whole procedure of, they need to fill this form out, they need to talk with Bruce, they need to talk with whoever.
Okay.
Some of this also came out of when we were having the discussion, it goes back into last year when Joe and I had some discussions in regards to the property rental agreement and whatnot.
Mhm.
There was some holes we wanted to get,
Done,
straightened
close up.
out, things like that, so.
Okay.
We've got the indemnity clauses, we've got the alcohol issues and things like that are covered in there, so.
Okay, good. All right, next one.
Oh, wait a minute.
Oh, do you have, motion.
I'd
Sorry.
move the revised property use agreement.
Second.
All in favor? Yep.
Thank you.
All right. Consideration of policy for remote participation in public proceedings other than town meeting.
And this is the policy that was recommended by MMA. Teresa also had one sent from Brandon Isaacson. It was a different format, but it basically said the same thing. The law change that was put in by the legislature was quite short and didn't leave a lot of ambiguity anywhere. If you can be here, you need to be here. If there's a reason you can't be here, illness, distance, inclement weather, then this, by accepting this policy or approving this policy, it gives you the option of using Zoom. If you don't.
Only Zoom or?
Or a hybrid.
Yeah.
That person that can't come can Zoom into the meeting.
Does it have to be a video connection or can it be a phone?
It can be a phone. If you use a phone, you have to, and either way, you're supposed to do a roll call vote
Right.
with it.
Because you have to recognize the person,
Yeah.
like they can't just raise their hand.
Yeah, or they can't nod their head, or,
Right.
yeah.
But the other thing that comes into play in that is if one person comes in remotely, then the whole meeting has to be open for any other participants to come in remotely.
That's
You
correct.
can't just say that one member of the committee can, because then you have to allow the public to come in remotely
Exactly.
as well.
Can those
So,
remote participants vote?
Yes.
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 Yes. Like,
That's what the ordinance says.
say Lonnie's out of town. You can make it to a meeting,
Right.
remote. instead
What
of
would
making it back.
say? My hands raised, or?
No, we'd say roll call.
Roll call.
We'll do roll call. You say
So
aye,
every
nay.
person has to say aye or nay.
Oh, okay.
Yep, yep.
And for instance, you had strep throat once and couldn't attend. But
Yeah.
but you still wanted to, and we tried to figure out how we could, and there wasn't anything we ended
I did actually, well, on the phone too, and then I think I fell asleep towards the end, but if I'm that sick, I'm not coming to these meetings, there's no way.
But
Yeah,
I
but
think the big issue is this is more from the standpoint of the
Emergency
exception,
meetings, too.
an exception, not a rule.
Yes.
Not
Right.
the rule. I mean, you know, if you're, you know, essentially, if you're elected to a board, you know, part of it is that you make it to your meetings, and, you know, so it's,
I
you
think
know,
that's an
there's
easy-
always gonna be that,
easy
it's always
yes.
gonna be that one or two times when somebody can't, and, you know, when we know in advance, a lot of times,
Yeah,
we'll
we can make-
reschedules and things like that, but, you know, it's more for for something out of the norm happening and whatnot that you would impose this, because it does throw, it does throw other responsibilities on other entities, as in, you know, as in the technology side, as in, you know, Sue and things like that. If it does get invoked, it does throw additional responsibilities on other people.
But this is only for the select board, we cannot tell the other boards.
Right, each board
how
has
to do
to,
their
each
own
board
thing.
has to have their own set of rules in regard to that.
Right, but the question is, do you have to allow Zoom to the public for every meeting?
No,
No,
not
only
unless,
to meetings if someone is attending, one of the board members is attending by Zoom.
So why can't a public member say, I want to attend the meeting, but I can't, but I have something to say?
Because the legislature in all their infinite wisdom did not include anything like that.
Because they don't care about the public?
Well, but here's the other bad thing about that, the public's not gonna understand if one of us can't make a meeting
You
and
knew
we're
what
gonna
was
do
going to be said.
Zoom.
You just wanted to say it.
And the other.
Your job has been
Yeah.
duly noted.
The other pieces does allow you is to have emergency meetings via Zoom.
Yeah.
So if something crops up, you don't have to get here, and that's rather a nice feature in this.
So like that meeting that we may be having in 10 days.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
But,
Right.
you know, I get the whole policy thing. But I don't understand why we don't allow Zoom meetings
The
for the public.
The original legislation
Yeah.
that the Maine Town and City Clerks were wholeheartedly behind
Yeah.
was changed by amendment on the floor to have all these conditions.
Because a lot of small towns didn't want to go through the technology to do it properly.
Probably.
There was a great resistance to the technology of Zoom in small towns,
Yeah.
that's for sure.
Yeah.
Well, and I've got to admit, I was skeptical of Zoom prior to the last year. Having seen it in action and seen that, yes, people can vote, you can see who it is, they have all the same information, have the same input. It really doesn't matter if they're physically in this room to vote or not.
Yeah. I agree.
All right.
I can tell you from this town's standpoint, when the announcement was made we'd be going back to live, there was some level of disappointment. The department heads enjoyed doing it via Zoom. The town manager enjoyed doing it via Zoom.
I did too. I did
We all
too.
did.
Yeah, we all did.
It worked I thought it worked flawlessly.
How many employees say, hey, I'd rather work from home?
Ken is very glad that we're done doing Zoom.
but wait a minute, let's just look at an example here. Take tonight, okay? If this had been done by Zoom, that would have been a Zoom.
Yeah, it would have been a zoo.
Right.
That's Zoo on Zoom.
It would have taken a lot longer too.
Yeah. And so, you know, I mean, you know,
Yes, it
Yeah.
would
as I
have.
say, it's a tool that exists and now would exist in the quiver, but it is to be used judiciously. It's not, it should not be the norm.
Let's keep it in the toolbox.
Well, I mean, we do have people, you can watch it on public TV as it's going on, so I mean, but you can't call in, you know. A lot of towns allow you to call in and make a comment.
phones would beep
If you
it.
live
I don't know if
close
somebody's
enough, you
calling
can
in.
run up the street.
Yeah, red button.
Oh, that's been blinking for months.
All right.
I was joking a little bit, but for our typical meeting, tonight's not our typical meeting.
No, it's not.
For our typical meeting, Zoom works pretty well.
Yes.
Great, so, yeah.
That's all I'm
right.
saying.
What do you guys want to do? Motion?
Move to accept the remote participation policy.
Second.
All in favor? All right. Consideration of policy for municipal officials' email use for town business.
And
Sue.
I brought this up a number of years ago.
Wait a second. There's a lot of you on here.
Yeah, there is.
You notice that? Is this meeting about you or is this meeting about us?
It's all about Sue.
It's all about me. That's why you hire a town clerk.
Go ahead, sorry.
I brought this up quite some time ago because one of the hats I wear in the town office is Freedom of Information Officer. And for several different reasons, I would like to see this at least considered. One is that if there is a Freedom of Information request made for emails and you're not using the town email, they can get, honey, please bring home the milk, and other things that may not be quite as innocuous as that. So it exposes you potentially and to anyone who is not using the town email.
Well,
to that.
well, a FOIA request has to be specific. They can't get all your emails. It has to be specific to whatever they're asking for.
Yeah, it can be. But if you happened in the middle of things to deviate a bit. And another piece of that is if everyone is sending and receiving using their town email, that means it's backed up. It's all searchable here. We don't need to say, please hand me your phone. Please give me your passwords to get into your or not me, but Kevin probably, to get into your email to be able to find things. It would all be backed up and we'd be able to fulfill FOIA requests electronically. Another is a purely selfish reason, and that's that with some folks, it is difficult to figure out will a real email address please stand up. There was one member who I had 4 emails for, and he wasn't getting any of them. None of them were valid any longer, and I didn't have a current email for him, not on this board.
I was thinking.
And we do assign to new committee members Raymond.org or RaymondMaine.org.
Your name dot
addresses, yeah. And if the staff could just simply say, okay, they're on the board, I know their email address. I don't have to go find it and figure out, is this one still valid? Is this one still valid? That would save us some operational time. That's the least of the reasons, but it's a consideration, at least for me. So that's why I'm proposing this.
I'm not going to use the town email.
Yeah.
You don't have to use it, but just get one.
Well, I have one.
He has one.
And I asked Kevin, whatever goes to that email, forward to my work email, because that's the only email I look at.
Right, me too.
I have a Gmail account I
Me
don't
too.
look at. I have
Me too.
other email accounts I haven't looked at for years. And I'm not going to. So.
I second that.
But what if we use the Joe Bruno at Raymond Maine, if you have one of those and it points it to the Community RX email?
Yeah.
If it sends it directly to you, would that?
That's what's happening right now.
That's what's happening right now.
But I don't do that. I send it directly to the Joe Bruno one.
Right.
But what happens if
And
At
that's,
RX.
he
Community RX.
responds
Yeah, and
from his community pharmacy one?
then we don't have record of that. It's only on his community pharmacy email.
So you can say
But-
bad things about Rolf and send them to me, and yeah.
But
we don't have the same.
any email I respond on town business goes into my Raymond Selectman folder
Yeah.
automatically,
Okay.
just in case someone wants to know what the hell I'm talking about. I don't talk about anything very exciting, I can tell you that.
Is this being recorded?
Yes.
All right, what do you guys want to do on this one? I think everybody has one. I mean, we can make it a policy, whether you use it or not. It would be sent
make
to-
it a policy.
We already do that with me, so I mean, it doesn't make any
All
difference.
right, I'll move to table table this at this time.
Second. All in favor?
Yeah.
Why are you tabling it?
Okay.
Doesn't matter, I tabled it.
Doesn't matter, you tabled it. Okay, public comment. Anybody? Anybody behind you? Nope, no public comment? Selectmen comment? Anybody have anything to say on the selectmen? Sorry about the Rand property. I am sorry about that. That's
Yeah, that is,
yeah, that's a bad,
unfortunate.
and I hope everybody's all right too.
I hope nobody got hurt.
now, according to the news, that there was nobody in the building, so that's.
No, they got the 3 dogs out. A couple of the firefighters, I think they said, for either heat or just being taken care of, but they were all right, so.
Was someone living there?
That's what the news said. I was unaware of that, but it said it was rented.
John Dion rented it from them. He used to be at Jordansville Middle School, and so he rented it for a couple of years, I think, for them, and then he moved. But yeah, and then they rented it out. I mean, it was an old house. It was
Somebody
really pretty.
came down that road. I was driving down just before the fire was reported.
Ooh.
And I don't know, but they had a BMW, a black BMW came down there. And I went down to Wyndham and right back, and the thing was on fire then.
I wonder if they went out for a few minutes and didn't realize it, so.
Yeah.
So I hope everybody's all right. All right, moving on to town manager's report.
I guess for Peter Levitt, if he's home watching, we're one step closer, I guess, to the broadband infrastructure
I saw that.
with the Senate vote.
Mhm.
But I guess that's only just one step. We've got a bigger step to get by than that.
Yep.
So anyhow, confirming dates for upcoming regular meetings, September 14th and October 12th.
And can we pick another day in 10 days here?
Well, do we want to discuss that and post it later when we know better what's going on?
Well, you have to, yeah, but don't we?
It's an emergency meeting.
If it's an emergency meeting, how long, well, no, yeah.
You don't have to post it
That's
7
correct.
days in advance.
Yeah, all the posting requirements are gone with
Yeah,
emergency
well,
meetings.
would it make sense to post it once we know it's an emergency meeting? We don't know when it will be.
Well, that's why I figured I wanted to just see what everybody's availability was, but I'm fine with waiting.
I mean, 10 days from now is Friday the 20th,
August 20th. Oh my God.
which is, the last emergency meeting we had was on a Friday, also Friday morning.
Okay, so Rolf can't do it. What's-
No,
Oh.
we can,
Zoom,
because we
yeah.
can zoom in on that, because it's an emergency meeting, so.
Lonnie, can you make the 20th?
Oh, did you say we can Zoom me?
Yep.
Yeah, I'll be here. I'll be somewhere.
As long as it's an early morning,
Oh, Friday.
Yeah, like 3, 4
like
in the
9
morning.
o'clock.
9 o'clock.
3, 4 in the morning, Joe.
Yeah, that's good too.
Right.
I'm up anyway.
I know you are.
Perfect.
That's next Friday?
The 20th.
The 20th. So,
I,
yes, a week from Friday.
I mean, that's just
if
tentative
I don't
right
get on
now.
that one, then you can take it.
Yeah, I'm going to
Yeah.
be on vacation, I think.
All right, yeah. It all depends on what's going
I
on
don't know
with the
if you need
house,
me
so
for that.
mine's
Yeah,
kind
no.
of crazy.
Because they've
All right.
already, they've already really, they just are checking to make sure that he's done everything, so.
So it may be sooner than 10 days.
It could be.
I have to, right?
So I think it's all tentative right now anyway.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, go ahead, Don. You can.
Okay, so the regular meeting dates are okay, and tentatively you're going to go with next Friday for the emergency meeting?
Unless he gets it done sooner.
Right, okay, and then we have the holiday schedule reminder of Monday, the 6th, Labor Day.
Yep.
Okay,
Yep. Is that it?
that's it.
Whoa, short and sweet.
I mean, I could probably come up with something if you really want me to.
That
but
was by
I
Taylor,
think we've had
correct?
enough tonight.
I think we have.
Second.
All in favor?